Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the Missoula City Council meeting of June 11th, 2018 to order. You should please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please let the record note that with the exception of Ms. Anderson, Mr. DeBari, Mr. Von Lossberg, and Ms. Jones, all council members are present this evening. We don't have minutes to approve this evening, but we do have a committee schedule. Ms. Rabine?
Thanks. The Administration and Finance Committee will meet this Wednesday, the 13th of June from 9:25 to 9:30. Land Use and Planning follows from 9:35 to 9:50. We actually have 3 shifts for the Budget Committee of the Whole on the 13th. The first one is at 9:55 to 10:40 in the morning. Public Works will follow that from 10:45 to 10:55. Budget Committee will meet again from 11 in the morning to noon, and we'll round out the day from 12:30 to 1:45. All those meetings are being held right here in the council chambers, 140 West Pine.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. Any changes to the committee schedule? Seeing none, we'll move on to the public comment portion of our agenda. This may be a first in my service as your mayor. I don't think, unless Ms. Byron is intending on commenting, we don't have anyone to offer comment. So we'll skip that portion of the agenda and move on to the consent agenda, where items were approved unanimously in council committees, and we save a little time on Monday evenings by voting on them all at once. Ms. Rabine will read the list of consent agenda items aloud so those watching on television tonight can hear what we're talking about, and we'll invite comment on these items before we vote. Ms. Rabine.
Thanks. Tonight's consent agenda has 6 items. The first is to approve claims, which are the city's accounts payable in the amount of $1,198,664.97 for checks that are dated tomorrow, just June 12th, 2018. Number 2 is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a contract with Patterson Enterprises Incorporated in the amount of $223,166.70 for the construction contract on project PR 18-04 BS. It's the bike skills parks that are located in Bellevue and Syringa Parks. Awarding that contract and associated site features, and authorizing the return of bid bonds. Number 3 is to confirm the mayor's appointment of Lisa Simon and Patricia Thornton to the Public Art Committee to fill 2 vacated terms to commence immediately and expire on June 30th of 2021. Number 4 is to award the bid for construction services on Scott Street Water Main Extension Project to Knife River Corporation of Missoula, Montana, for an amount not to exceed $662,855 and authorize the return of bid bonds. Number 5 is to approve the updates made to Missoula Water's Cross-Connection Control Program in order to adhere to the Department of Environmental Quality and State of Montana regulations regarding backflow programs. And finally, number 6 is to confirm the mayor's reappointment of James Sage as a regular board member on the City Board of Adjustment for a term commencing July 1st, 2018 and expiring on June 30th, 2021.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. Any questions or comments from council members regarding consent agenda this evening? Mr. Ramos?
Oh, can we separate the question and separate item 2 out of that, please, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
And may I speak to that briefly?
We're going to take a vote on items 1 and 3 through 6, and then we'll get to item number 2. For the record, Ms. Anderson is here. We have no public comment this evening, so we'll have a voice vote on items 1 and 3, roll call vote on items 1 and 3 through 6.
On the consent agenda as amended, Armstrong votes yes. Becerra votes yes. Cares votes yes. Harp votes yes. Hess votes yes. Jones. Oh, I'm sorry. Jones is absent. I thought she walked in. Merritt votes yes. Ramos votes yes. West West votes yes. Anderson? Anderson votes yes. Would any of you like to change your vote? That is 10 ayes and, 9 ayes and 3 absent.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. And on item number 2, Mr. Ramos?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize for holding up the show tonight. But first of all, I just want to say that it's a little unfortunate that this doesn't have its own public hearing. I just think it's important enough to have it on its own. But also, I'd like to start by saying that the design is fantastic. I think Parks did a great job, and I think that these would be a really nice addition to the community. However, I asked the question, can we really afford it right now? Is this a need or a want? Just a couple of weeks ago, we had a park project overshot by $188,000, and many of this body were rightfully upset. The overrun was yet another black eye for our ability to plan and prepare for future costs. The $188,000 had to be attached to a bond with interest because we already have a $3 million budget shortfall, which may impact the city's bond rating that we are trying to fix, but our reserve fund still stands at about half of where it should be. However, here we stand ready to approve yet another thing we can't afford. We received an excellent, very detailed presentation in committee last week detailing almost everything good about the project, but that conveniently left out what the project's maintenance costs and upkeep costs would be. When asked, the gentleman presenting said that he would try and get these numbers to me, but I've yet to receive them. First of all, I want to start by saying I understand full well that a large part of the funding for these projects came from the private sector, but the city is still contributing north of $60,000 to the project through impact fees paid by developers to the project, not including the maintenance. So I ask, where are the maintenance costs going to come from if and when we cannot rely on volunteers to upkeep the parks? Is it going to come from the general fund? Will we have to raise taxes? Will it come from the Parks Special District? I just want to remind everybody that when the Parks Special District first came out in September of 2010, it was presented to the public and was only $200,000. On August 28, 2017, the revenue raised from the district was $1,591,562. When is it enough? How much longer can we expect the taxpayers to bail us out? Let's look at our personal lives and say somebody gave us $160,000, like what's happening with the parks, and said we could buy a Lamborghini for $220,000. But we had to not only pay for the $60,000 difference, but we also had to pay for the maintenance costs, which are expensive with a Lambo, the insurance, and other expenses associated with it. I'm willing to bet that almost nobody on the city council could afford that. Certainly I could not. So why are we willing to do this to the taxpayers? In light of everything, especially in the light of the fact that the park overran by $188,000, I urge my colleagues to do the responsible thing and vote against this project and focus on our budgeting shortfall and stop living paycheck to paycheck with our dollars. We could use these impact fees to maintain all of the upkeep we have on current parks and not continue to bite off more than we can chew and continue to raise the Parks Special District every single year. Again, 2017, we're sitting at $1.6 million, and 8 years ago it was $200,000 because it has become a maintenance fund. Please vote no tonight.
Further discussion on consent agenda item number 2, Ms. Merritt?
I guess I'd just like to respond to Mr. Ramos's statements. And while I recognize, I also have a concern about where the maintenance fees come from. I think this was a concern that I had with the open space issues as well. However, I think there are benefits that aren't always obvious at first. And one of the benefits, I think, with the bike parks will be safe, fun, positive places for young people to recreate. And if they're recreating at the bike parks, they're not getting in trouble with the law, and they're doing good things for their bodies, being out there and exercising. And I think those are all really beneficial aspects that we need to take into account when we invest in nice amenities like this for our community.
Further discussion? I'm sorry, I thought you were pointing at something. Yes, Ms. Anderson.
I want to thank Councilwoman Merritt for her comments. I spent a lot of time last week talking with the next generation of leaders in Montana about what it is that City Council does and municipal government, and it's the fabric that builds our society. And when I think of the things that we're responsible for on City Council, I think of, the stuff people don't take into consideration every day: roads, sewer, water, but also parks, are a huge part of that, because it is what makes our community great. And I think that is what makes Missoula such an amazing community to live in, because we as a society and a council have over and over said we value this and we prioritize this, and this is what it means to live in Missoula, and we want to put our money there. I don't think it's fair to compare this particular parks project to the art park. I think that that's not an apples to apples comparison, and I am going to be proud to vote yes for this and look forward to the day when my nephews, the two newest citizens of Missoula, get to enjoy it. So thanks so much.
Further discussion? Lot to unpack in Mr. Ramos's remarks. I will remind council that impact fees are used for capital projects, would not be used for maintenance under any circumstance, and these fees are segregated into a number of components, and so parks impact fees cannot be used outside of parks, etc. Seeing no further discussion or anyone in the audience to comment, we'll have a roll call vote on item number 2.
Alrighty, on item number 2, we'll start this round with Anderson.
Yes.
Anderson votes yes. Armstrong. Yes. Armstrong votes yes. Becerra. Becerra votes yes. Cares. Cares votes yes. Harp.
Yes.
Harp votes yes. Hess. Hess votes yes. Merritt. Merritt votes yes. Ramos. Ramos votes no. And West. West votes yes. Would anybody like to change your vote? That's 8 ayes, 1 nay, and 3 absent.
And item number 2 is approved. We'll move on to comments from agencies, city staff agencies, boards, commissions, authorities, and the community forum, and there aren't any of those. I will pass on communications to the mayor and begin general comments from council members this evening with Ms. Armstrong and Ms. Cares and Ms. Becerra and Mr. Ramos and Mr. Hess and Ms. West and Ms. Anderson
I will say something.
and Ms. Merritt. Ms. Hart?
Since we're over our 4 minutes and 48 seconds, this is just a shout out to Grace Honey and Annie Petschauer, who are 2 amazing young women in our community who coach hockey. And I had the distinct pleasure to spend about 9 hours of time with them this weekend on the ice and off the ice. And because of their leadership, we have girls program at the U19 and at the U14 level that are state champions. So to Grace and Annie, thank you.
Ms. Merritt?
I would like to remind folks that some members of our community are still suffering the effects of the floods that we've had lately. There are volunteer groups that are organizing to help people both remove sandbags and muck out houses that have been flooded. If you're interested, look up the Missoula Flood Support Group on Facebook, and they can hook you up with those volunteers who are organizing to do that.
We have no committee reports this evening, nor any new business. Are there any additional items to be referred? Seeing none of those, any miscellaneous communications, reports, petitions, or announcements? Seeing none at 7:13, the meeting was adjourned. Thank you for your service.